I'm sure many of you can relate to either wanting or how badly you wanted a big, comfortable, yet challenging corporate job after leaving your studies, whether that's university or school. And what I'm here to tell you about is the dark side. So while you probably will get a lot of support in terms of resources and people to talk to in your firm, a lot of the work, a lot of self-awareness is needed to be able to get by day to day, especially when it starts to get busy and work starts to pick up. You need to be vulnerable enough to say if you're struggling and if the workload is too much. Now, this is so easy for me to talk about after the fact and on this video, because in reality, it's really hard to even recognize that maybe your workload is too much and it is too much for you. It might not be too much for someone else, it might be too little for someone else, but it is too much for you. And that's okay to recognize and speak out about, especially in an environment where everyone kind of tends to get their head down, do the work, and whoever comes out of it alive gets promoted. And in the same vein, you don't always have to speak up vocally or even physically to set boundaries if you don't want to. You can just kind of create them and work by them, and this can sometimes just be, standards of working that you set for yourself, creating your own norm. And for me, it was getting a little bit emotionally draining to continuously vocalize my boundaries, and I just started to feel like a broken record. So I just started acting on them and, setting that standard for myself, not dropping below my own standard. Because if I respect my own standards, other people are going to respect the standards I have for myself as well. And no one has yet disrespected these standards, so, video incoming if that happens. You have to evaluate anything and everything you say when you're speaking up, either against or with senior management. And by this, I mean you need to know the consequences or potential conflicts of interest when you speak out against something with senior management, instead of just, blindly speaking out on what you disagree on. You'll have to always be strategic and have sort of like an informal, loose business case, as loose as you can get to grips with at that time before you actually speak out on something. And this just means, evidence, backup, or, just a business case for something, because at the end of the day, it's your job that you would be risking if you came out with something rogue. Another thing is that it's really easy to get comfortable. At these bigger conglomerates, opportunities come by every single day, and you have to be the one to pick them up and act on them. It's so easy to let weeks turn into months, turn into years that just end up rolling by before you're like, oh wait, I'm doing the same thing that I was doing last year. And while your years of experience kind of increases on your CV, have you learned or done anything new or challenging recently that you want to do? Don't just challenge yourself for the sake of it and cause yourself problems, but have you learned anything new? Because it's 2021, you need to be learning skills all the time. Your environment is changing all the time, so you need to keep up with it. It doesn't have to be difficult or stressful or problematic, but if you do work at a large firm, you should take advantage of all the opportunities that are going to present themselves and spice up that CV. It's also way too easy to associate your sense of self-worth to your performance reviews. And I'm here to tell you, they are apples and oranges. And by this I mean performance reviews and self-worth. They're not the same. The trap of thinking you're only a good worker if you're productive and present 12 hours of the day, your output's 110%, and you've got A1 performance reviews all the time, is obviously it's getting a bit dated. It means nothing once you log out of your work laptop and you start living your life. Because guess what? You're still you still have hobbies, and you still have a life to live. And whenever you're wavering on self-worth at your corporate job, just remember the fact that Boris thinks he's doing a really great job as PM right now. So you are allowed to have a few unproductive days here and there and not feel guilty. And that's my point. Your attitude actually matters so much more than you think. And your response in a stressful situation is what makes it stressful. You could have the worst career of your life if you respond to stress by overworking, putting yourself in the center of every problem, and caring too much, to be quite frank. So do the opposite of these things. Start each day with the right attitude and make that bread. Your manager will like you more if you make life easy for them and do your job. I always thought that everyone had their own job to do, and that was that, inclusive of being part of a team. But what I've realized is the easier you make your manager's life and the clearer they are on what you're up to, the happier they're going to be overall, and the happier that will in turn make you, because no stress gets put onto you. And making your manager's life easier takes energy and effort from you. So figure out how to make that work. Ask them what helps them sleep at night in terms of team management and project management, and do it. Timing is everything, and no one will tell you when is the right time to do what. Like the first point, there has to be a lot of self-awareness involved with timing of when you do things. Asking for a promotion, asking for a raise, asking for an opportunity to be involved in something, creating an opportunity to be involved with something. You have to read the room, understand your company's performance and salary review structure, and you have to know when to ask the right questions, because no one's going to ask you, hey, do you want a raise? You deserve a raise. You go get a raise. Apply for it. You go do it. No one's going to tell you what to do and also put it in your hand and make it really easy. And you also have to read the room. Like, when you do decide to ask for these things, ask when your managers and, performance evaluators are not going through a rough patch, are in a good mood. All these things count. Final thing is that office politics is unfortunately such a thing. I don't think it's not a thing anywhere. Some people get on, some people don't get on. And my best advice is to never take sides. Be Switzerland and just be nice to everyone you come into contact with. Get to know who your colleagues are and build genuine relationships. All in all, something I'm learning this year is to not take my career too seriously. What we've learned over the last year in this panic call is that your career could be taken away from you at any point in time. I'm just trying to do what I'm good at, get better at what I'm good at, meet some cool people at work, and just balancing all of these three at the same time to have a happy life as well as a happy corporate job. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.